wrap it around an arm. It's amazing. You can also use it for little ones. You know, with little ones, you have to be very careful about heat, especially infants, because they can't tell you, and their thermostat isn't regulating them yet. It takes a while for that to kick in. So you really shouldn't use the Biomat with newborns or infants. They can be on their mother's chest or something like that, but they could lie on a pillowcase, no problem, you know. So it's a really fun little thing to work with that, you know, along the way you might want to get and try.
Now,
Also, one other thing about the pillow, which we'll get into, if a practitioner is using it just to sell Biomat sessions, they will want a pillow to keep the person's head cool so they're more comfortable.
Okay, great. So when you use it that way, when you take the case off, do you usually put that inside of like a different pillowcase, like a cotton pillowcase, or you just use it?
I just use it wrapped around it. What I do, because it is hard, it's firm, I put a hand towel over it.
Okay.
You can put a pillowcase over it too. It's whatever, you know, floats your boat, whatever makes you happy,
right.
Depending on how soft you want it to be.
Excellent.
And you're just getting the natural infrared and negative ions.
Excellent. Okay, so tell us about the negative ions, because you mentioned that earlier. What are the benefits of negative ions, and how do we talk about those things?
Okay. Negative ions are what we find in nature every day, but nobody's aware of it, and they're very vital to our body. Actually, these three components are extremely vital to our body, and we don't get enough of. That's why your body does the happy dance, particularly the first time you're on it. And by the way, a person's first experience on the Biomat is going to be like a wow experience on the professional if they do a 30-minute session. They're going to wake up so amazed and feel so good because it's totally new to the body. And the body is just literally like doing the happy dance. The more and more they start to use it, some of that wow experience is going to diminish because now the body's getting used to it, it's absorbing it and working with it. So just be aware of that. If somebody says to you when you've been sharing it with somebody, man, that first day it was awesome, and then after that, it wasn't, you know, I didn't feel all that stuff. That's okay. The body's getting used to it. Also, if they want a confirmation that it's actually doing something, have them put their feet, when they're lying on their back, have them put their feet flat on the mat. So they'll bend their knees, you know, pull it up to their chest so their knees are bent and their feet are flat on the mat. After about 15 seconds, they'll start to feel a tingle, a little vibration. It's a lovely little tingle that starts up their feet through, they'll feel it go through their ankles, and they'll feel it start traveling up their calves. That's your cells vibrating because the mat causes whole body vibration, which is one of the three important components. You asked about negative ions. Negative ions we find in nature around crashing water, after a thunderstorm, around waterfalls, movement of water. It literally zaps all the dirt out of the air. That's why it smells so fresh after a rainstorm. It literally drops to the ground. If you have blinds in your room, Venetian blinds or something, right next to your Biomat, you'll notice that there's not going to be hardly any dust on them compared to other blinds in the same room because it literally cleanses the air. It's a cleaning component, which it helps your body do as well, but it helps everything communicate more effectively. So your body is now working at a higher level, okay? It aids, it's an amazing pain management tool. And sleep, they use this a lot in sleep centers, negative ions for sleep and for pain management. The infrared we get from the sun. It's the healthiest part of the sun's rays that we absorb as people. It aids our body in producing vitamin D. So it's just like when you lay on the sand on the beach on a warm day, and when you lay down on that, and that warmth feels very different than an electric heating pad because your whole body will absorb it. The difference, people will say to you, oh, this is just an electric heating pad. No, it's not. Electric heating pads only heat the bony points, the pressure points where your body is. The heat doesn't travel through the rest of the body, and it doesn't stay very long because it's very superficial. Infrared heat is absorbed by your whole body. It will fill your whole body and stay with you for hours because it's radiant heat. It goes to the core and works its way out. Infrared heat is also very antibacterial, antimicrobial, helps boost your immune system. So those are, again, components that we get in nature. Everybody puts on sunscreen. Nobody lets the sun hit their bodies. Nobody's around at the beach or around waterfalls or going for walks in the rain. That whole body vibration, which the crystal helps facilitate, that's walking. When you walk on the earth, the earth is vibrating constantly. We need that vibration to keep our cells moving, to keep them healthy. It helps our body detox. What it does, it helps the cell channel wall expand to it aids in osmosis, cellular osmosis. So it helps that cell channel wall expand to its optimal expansion, like a balloon that's inflated perfectly. If you have a smushy cell, one that's not inflated properly, it can't detox. It can't let nutrition in and toxins out. It's just like trying to poke a balloon that's not inflated enough. The pin keeps popping away from it and it doesn't pop. That's how your cell works. So when it's expanded to its optimal point, that cell membrane can now transfer nutrition in, toxins out. And that vibration aids in that. And we don't get that because nobody's walking barefoot anymore on the earth. You don't get that naturally, you know. So these are all things that we don't do anymore that we used to do as cavemen. And that's why, those are those natural components. The biomat is not rocket science. It's just bringing 3 vital elements that people don't think are so vital together. And that gives you a quantum effect.
Right. Excellent. I love the point about electric heating pads versus the far infrared, that it's penetrating, so it works from the inside out. That's really what you feel, I think, the difference that you feel, for me at least, when I'm on the mat, is I do warm up from the inside out. So on these cold, you live in Florida, we live in Oklahoma. We've had, extended periods of 30-degree highs, and it feels like that cold is in your bones.
Yes.
You can't get warm, but then you get on the mat and you can drive that out, basically, which is fantastic. I love it. I got my mat, my Pro, February of last year, and it just makes winter so much more bearable. Yeah, it does. I grew up in Chicago and lived in Michigan for years, so I'm right there with you. Oh, my goodness. You had also asked about negative ions and some things that you might not learn elsewhere. We have a practitioner, a doctor in Jamaica, who has been using the Biomat for decades now. And he wrote to us and said, it's a testimonial letter we have from him. He actually, after his sessions where people have been lying on the Biomat, because he performs his services while they're on the Biomat, he likes to do a cool down session with negative ions, which is very nice because negative ions will actually cool your body down. So on hot summer days, you could just turn the negative ions on, lay in it, and it's a nice cooling effect. Also, if you're going through menopause and you're having hot flashes, it's very cooling and soothing. So that it can help with that too. But you might find that over time, everything starts to come into balance, and so your symptoms are not as aggressive or not as intense. Things will start to diminish, particularly with people with arthritis. If you ask them, well, what's your pain now, before they lie down for the first time? On a scale of 1 to 10, they're used to that telling you. And then when they get up after even 15 minutes and you ask them what it is, they'll admit that it's diminished. With regular use, the Biomat is like a supplement for your body. The more you use it, the better you feel, and it starts storing it. It takes a while for supplements, when you start taking something new, to store up in your body so that now you're coasting and you have a sufficient amount all the time. So it is with the Biomat. In the beginning, it's this wow effect. But as your body gets used to it and you store the energetics, now your body starts coasting and it's got an even flow of the energy all the time. So you're feeling good more consistently. That absolutely makes sense, because we have a word that we use. A lot of us are oilers, and we talk about ramping, which is when you accelerate a dosage, basically, in the beginning, the frequency and the amount to get it built up in your body. And what we hear so many times from people when they get their biomats are, this first month, I just can't get off of it. Like I need it all the time. I'm craving it. And that's
Yes.
what they're doing is they're ramping that into their systems. And then they hit that place where, okay, now I can do, 2 sessions a day or whatever. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
It literally is a supplement for your body.
Excellent.
And it will stay with you throughout the day, longer and longer and longer. That's one of the neat things about it. Yeah. And it can't hurt you. You can't get too much of it. So now one of the things we were talking about was doing therapeutic sweats. You can do a therapeutic sweat on there for many different reasons, but you can do it comfortably or uncomfortably, because when you do therapeutic sweats, it's a form of detox, just like a sauna. You're detoxing your skin, your organs, whatever. So if you do too much too quickly, it can be very uncomfortable, as in you can get a stomach ache, you can throw up, you can have the runs, you can get a headache, you can be totally wiped out and feel really puny. So slow and steady wins the race with everything, particularly if you're dealing with somebody who's very frail due to an illness, or very old, or a young child. Slow and steady wins the race. So start at the lower temperatures, and if that was good the next day, crank it up to the next one. If that was good the next day, crank it up to the next one. Let them have their body tell them what's enough. When you do therapeutic sweats, what most people want to know is, well, how do I protect the mat? There is a waterproof pad for the mini and the professional. So if you're doing a lot of oils, doing raindrop treatment, doing wet body wraps, you would want to use the waterproof pad. It's really not necessary to do therapeutic sweats, because what you can do, if you want, you can still use a waterproof pad, but you can put a beach towel or a heavy bath towel, cotton towel on top of it. You wrap yourself in a cotton towel or cotton sweats. You can lay in the buff or not, but you want it to be all natural fabric, okay? Because you don't want the dyes and chemicals, the fire retardants, to soak into your body. Okay. And just sweat away.
Can I inject right there?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point about not wanting those things to get into your body from the fabric itself. Also, keep in mind what you're treating your fabrics with. Are you using an all-natural detergent? Have you gotten rid of dryer sheets? Are you, and fabric softener and all of that? Are you using white vinegar? Like go all natural, because you don't want those things, absorbing into your body more readily than they already are. So, excellent point.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, people forget your skin is your largest organ. It's actually an organ protecting you, but it absorbs everything. The clothes we wear, the dyes and the fire retardants that we wear, that's why people prefer trying to go more natural, with fabrics and etc. And so it is with when you're using the Biomat. Use all natural cotton sheets on it, because remember, it's opening up your body to receive. So you don't want to be absorbing back in what your body is detoxing. Then you're just going like this. You're spinning on your wheels. So try to stay with all natural fabrics, and definitely not anything synthetic like nylons or polyesters when you're laying on it, or you're going to sweat like a bullet and it's not going to go anywhere and it's not going to feel good. So you want to use natural fiber, and then you can just merely take that off and wash it. So you can do a therapeutic sweat, depending on how your body is and how you're feeling, anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. There's different reasons for doing them. Weight loss, just to be healthy, once or twice a week to sweat, to open up your pores. There's different protocols. There is a book out there about, and you have to be very cautious. I'm going to tell you about the protocol that a cancer doctor in Japan developed, and you have to be very careful when associating the Biomat with cancer. You can't say it cures it, it will heal it, blah, blah, blah. You can share your experience with it, but you cannot say this is what you need to do and it will do this. So, but this doctor in Japan was the head of his oncology clinic in Japan, and he developed a protocol with the Biomat, and there's a book out there, and the girls can get it for you, and there's a little primer on it, but it's a wonderful little book, 145 pages, all about cancer and what you can do to help yourself. And it doesn't just focus on the Biomat. It's Biomat, it's diet, it's attitude. It's a wonderful little book. But basically what he found was that if you lay on the Biomat for 45 minutes on high, so it's already heated up to high, that would take about a half an hour to heat a professional mat to high, 45 minutes twice a day, approximately 10 hours apart. You are raising your core temperature 1 degree. And what happens when you raise your core temperature 1 degree is your body starts producing HSP, heat shock protein. Heat shock protein, once triggered, is like a faucet you can't turn off for 10 hours, and it just sprays throughout your body, this protein, which surrounds the cancer cells so they can't take in nutrition, so they stop growing. In some instances, they shrink and disappear. But it's not a guarantee for all. So doing that twice a day keeps your body in that constant production and boosts your immune system tremendously. So people have found that, very helpful when going through circumstances like that. If somebody is a cancer patient and they're doing radiation treatment, you don't want them to use the Biomat at the same time. They need to wait 6 weeks because radiation treatment is very intense heat, and now you're adding intense heat on top of that, and that's not good for the body. That's too much stress, creates too much stress for the body. But if they're doing chemo and other things, that's fine. So doing therapeutic sweats that way is an awesome thing. It's just like taking a sauna. Does somebody have a question about that?